Home in Wichita, Kansas. I'm going to go over our 6-step professional process that we use to successfully have home sales go through to give you the most peace of mind clarity on the path and the process from a mental standpoint. I have another video that I make on the emotional process of it all, but from a mental logistics standpoint, this will help you really wrap your head around how it works here in Kansas. But before we get all through all of that, please like, comment, subscribe, share. It really helps the small business, local community involved person, get things going, and helps us really contribute and enrich our community. Both myself, my team, Rico, Gwen, all the people that are involved with this with me. It's not just me. It's definitely a group effort, and what goes around comes around type of thing. And we'd like to keep the most genuine, impartial data and information out there to combat the headlines, popular opinions, and just put the truth out there. So we really appreciate your help and your support by liking, commenting, subscribing, all those things that help grow the channel and exposure to just help more people make more of an impact. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into sharing the screen and going through our 6-step professional process for how to buy a home in Wichita, Kansas. Once I get it shared, we'll kind of give you the visuals to go over everything. So this is on our website, wichitahomehero.com/buy-a-home, to kind of give you the visuals. I'm going to kind of just walk you through it a little bit and give you the rundown of it all, but also a little bit like what to expect when it comes to some of the things that going on around here. Now, obviously you can talk for hours on this, and a lot of it's going to be personalized and customized to you, your situation, that kind of thing. We love getting calls. We love getting inquiries about that. Sign up on the website, send us a message, or, you can call me directly. We can talk on everything, text and call, really try to make it a personal process for this whole thing and your personal consideration, whether you're moving to town, whether it's your first time buying a home, or you need to sell to buy, what have you. This 6-step professional process kind of guides you through every piece of it all, what to expect, what to do, what we're doing, what you need to be doing, on all that. But the first step typically is you want to start with setting up your financing and really considering, what monthly payment you want to be around, what price point you want to be around, where you're comfortable financially on everything, because that really dictates more than the market and interest rates and anything else, where you want to be at for your goal with how this house and living situation fits your life situation and your lifestyle and everything else that goes with it, so that we can strategically plan and be certain and calm and safe on these decisions we're making, not necessarily just erratically going out and buying a house. It's like sometimes we'll do with cars or clothes or things like that. This is a big strategic decision that we want to be, smart on. And usually what you got to start with is the money. And it's not necessarily a question of can you qualify. It's just how much can you qualify? What are the scenarios? You don't have to deal with a lot of lenders pulling like hard credit, or like the dealerships where they run your credit a lot. This is really just get a base score of it all, knock it out of the way. I know people are typically hesitant or resistant to set this piece up because they just kind of have an attitude of like, oh, I know I'll be good. That might be true, but we need to know exactly what we're dealing with on everything. The other side of it is, I know if you got problems with your credit or job history or anything like that, like there's no judgment, there's no harshness. We just need to see where we can figure out a solution for you. We have a safe place of acceptance of whatever's going on in your financial life, from a credit situation, from a personal situation. And keep in mind, like when you work with us, since we are professionally distant and don't know you super well, we do have client confidentiality, that we're not going to share all of your private financial information. And you can really have a safe place where we can discuss all of your finances and these big, high ticket, high stakes, vital information from a place of, comfort and privacy, that this isn't going to get leaked out to everyone. But that's usually where we need to start, is talking about money, where you're at, how much money I've saved for down payment, closing costs, all those things. And again, it's no judgment, no harshness, for me or my team or anything like that. We just need to know where are we at and what are we dealing with, so that we can fit a house to all of that situation. And I get it, if you don't know me or don't have a relationship built with me yet, there might be a feeling of mistrust on that, or I'm not sure if I can trust this guy, or if I want to divulge all that information. And hopefully we can ultimately win over your trust and care, or everything, showing you we're the good guys, we're not the bad ones that need to protect yourself from. That's kind of our role in this situation is to protect you from all the crazy, shady, complicated things that go on in this industry. Kind of why we named it Team Home Hero. It's kind of hokey, I know, but it gives you an idea of the brand and the style of what we're here for, and what we're about. So setting up financing, one of the best ways to do that is using like a local mortgage broker that we typically recommend, just because a lot of the sellers want to see that, because they like having somebody local that knows the lay of land and the process and has more skin in the game and is involved than like some of these national lenders who make promises, issue out pre-qual letters pretty loosely, and just kind of throw them out like candy, and then hopefully they stick and they land. And I've seen it before where a loan officer loosely hands out a pre-qual letter that can't close, and we're banking everything off of this pre-qual letter that this loan officer kind of did a subpar job on it all, of actually evaluating everything, scrutinizing everything, getting through this appraisal and underwriting piece. Because the truth is, we don't entirely know if you and your loan can go through until it actually goes through the underwriter on everything. And this is what's gotten harder than ever in today's world, is to actually get a loan through, to get pre-approved, and to get it pushed through the system. As much as interest rates were high and low and all those different things, the regulatory guidelines for getting a loan through are harder and higher than ever. Even though there's been a lot of home sales going on, this process is scrutinized a lot harder with everything, just because of '08, which is good, which gives us security that we're not going to have a crash and that things are going to be financially stable, because homeowners are not being allowed to put themselves in overly precarious situations on everything. Typically, like, your lender's going to allow you to go to like 45 to 55% monthly debt to income ratio. But in a lot of ways, like, your house really should only be about 25%, is a pretty safe, conservative measure of that on everything. And I'm a risk taker, but I think we need to take calculated risk. And at the end of the day, we just got to assess, like, where's your monthly income at? Where do you want your monthly payment to be at? And then what kind of house can we get into? And then there's a game we can play called the 3 to 5 year home flip game plan that we do, where you kind of just keep upgrading every 3, 5, 7 years on everything. But it totally depends on how much money you make to start, where your income's at, and then from there we can fix a home, or we can place a home to your income, where your finances are at, where you want to be at. So that way we're only looking at the houses we can buy. Because one of the meanest things we could do is show you houses that you can't buy, you can't get, or out of your price range, and then be like, oh no, sorry, you can't get that. And I know people like to dream, they like to shop, but in this situation, this is when we're at a point where it's like, hey, I need to get a house. I need to buy a home. I need to get a bigger one. I need to do this. So we got to deal in reality, not just dreaming and shopping and, playing la la land, fantasy land, like some people like to do on Zillow or some of those other sites like that. This is really more down to, like, when we really need to do this, this is how the process needs to go. So starting with financing is how it is. And then we have consult and tour homes on here, but really I like to call it a game plan. Is what it is really just sitting down and kind of going over your personal situation, your personal wants and needs, what's important to you, what's not, and then kind of looking at the market together, where we'll look at hundreds of homes online, but then when it comes to actually look at them in person, that's where we're kind of looking at them to offer, really. Because most of the time you can purchase them and decide online ahead of time whether you like it or not, because you can see enough information about, like, the house, the pictures, the data, the neighborhood, all the other things. It's kind of like the showing is kind of like the final reassurance of, like, hey, I need to see it in person, I need to make sure pictures match what it looks like. Is there anything I have a few questions on? But really, it's like, if we're going to show a home anymore, it's like we're going to show a home to offer on everything. Otherwise, everything can be done from a distance digitally. And that's where we want to provide that support for, like, are you getting the houses you want? What are you thinking of them? Can we adjust them? Everything goes with that, to where a lot of our job is not so much in person anymore as it used to be. It is still very personal, where we deal with the human and everything that goes on with that. But a lot of it is done from a distance, digitally, online, before we ever meet you in person or before we ever go see the house on everything. And that's where we strive to have the best experience of dealing with myself and Rico and Gwen and some of our back end support staff that kind of helps provide you a better digital service experience with everything. But it starts with having a game plan, because I think meeting people face to face in person is still a pretty vital, piece of all this, to still keep it personal and human on everything, to learn about you, you can learn about us, and we have a working relationship being built. So that is still important that we do that, but also having the convenience of digital services back and forth. So we'll set you up on a game plan so we're all on the same page, and then a house strip. And then sometimes, if you got a house to sell, we'll assess how much you can sell it for, what equity you're getting there, and then also where you're going to transfer it into the next one. That kind of a little bit difficult sell buy situation. It's a little bit more complex when you're dealing with two moving parts on that, as opposed to like if you're a relocation person coming to town, or if you are a first-time home buyer. Those are a little bit more flexible situations because it's not dependent on selling a home to get to the next one, which is what a lot of people are doing right now with all the increased appreciation. They're taking the equity from their current house and taking the next one. But obviously we got to sell your house, and that's proving to be a little bit more difficult right now with the higher interest rates on everything. So definitely having a strategic game plan in place, is I would say one of the crucial parts where we come in on being on the same page with you, so that even if it takes us 6 months, a year, 2 months to pull off your ideal moving situation, whether you're relocating, you need to sell a house to buy one, we're more than happy to meet with you in advance, get that plan in place. Like, you can never plan too far in advance on everything, just to be on the same page on everything, because you never know too where the right house you like comes up sooner than you thought, or you move sooner than you need to. And we just want to be all on the same page so that we can be there for you when you need us the most. So that's kind of the consult/game plan and tour homes piece of the process. And then let's say you're walking through a house and you like it, and you're like, hey, you want to offer on it. And before we offer on it, and when we're doing the tour homes thing too, this is where my construction background comes in. And I and Rico, I've kind of trained Rico to do this too, where it's like, we're looking at not just, do you like it, how pretty it is, but it's like, what's the age of the roof, what's the age of the foundation, the HVAC systems, all your major mechanical systems. Are there any big red flags? Then obviously we're asking you too, do you like the kitchen size, the bedroom size? Will this work for you? All those different things, just to help you evaluate being a hell yes or a hell no. And we're okay with it either way, if you say hell yes or hell no. But at the end of the day, we do have to make a decision, yes or no, on these properties that we may want to offer on. And that's kind of where our role comes in, is just kind of provide that facilitation service for you to get to a point where you're like, yes, I want to move forward on this house, or no, I do not, on everything. And we're here to kind of match you and mirror you on your pace and how much you need us or how much you don't, based on your life situation or what you're telling us. So making sure you're straightforward with us, direct, honest, is important, so that we can make sure we're being there for you. Because if you brush us off or you tell us you're not that serious, we're going to believe you. We're going to take your word for it. We're going to go that way. So if you really need our help and service, make sure you tell us. If you want to be more casual, just tell us. That's fine. We're okay to gauge ourselves towards you. Just make sure you're straightforward and honest with us, instead of kind of try to brush us off or treat us like a salesperson, because we're really not salespeople. We're service industry agents that deal with real estate, that provide a service that leads to a sale, but really not like salespeople like you typically come to think of agents as on everything. But when it comes time to offer, you get to that point, you say, all right, I like this house. It's at least it's an 8 out of 10, because usually a house that's an 8 out of 10 is the house you should offer on and you should buy, because you're usually never going to find a 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10 is pretty difficult. But if you get to an 8 out of 10 on a house, that's typically the house. 80% you love, 10% you can deal with, and 10% you can change. That's about the house that you should offer on and get, because there is no such thing as a perfect house. You got to remember, a lot of these are retail used houses, lived in houses, and 9 times out of 10, like, the pictures don't line up with the in-person part, just like all of our pictures. If you look at your own Facebook and Instagram and dating profiles, your professionally done picture probably doesn't look the same as you in person on everything. So that's something to take into account when it comes to all of that. Not misleading, not deceiving. It's just, you're going to have a professionally polished picture. It's going to look different than in person and how real life really is, just like we do. So anyway, so when it comes time to offers and you're like, I like this house, what we'll do at that point is we'll pull all the comps on the house. We'll pull whatever data we can to know any background about it all. We'll call the listing agent and say, like, how many showings you had, how many offers do you have, what's most important to the seller when writing this offer. And then we'll kind of help you come to terms with all the competitive different things we can do depending on the situation. If it's a real competitive situation, we can be throwing in there like escalation clauses, appraisal gaps, waiving inspections or waiving inspections up to $1,000. There's a lot of different things that go into these offers. And a lot of these things you have to figure out ahead of time. You can't change after the fact once you offer it, like a closing date, like early and late possession. All these things that go into carefully thought out considerations that come with writing a good offer that gets accepted, that wins, and actually has a thought out plan in place for everything, not just winging it and throwing in offers and emailing stuff over and trying to mail it in, process it in. You kind of got away with that for a little bit in a couple of years ago, but even then those offers were getting beat. So you really have to know how to negotiate, craft a winning offer, really work the situation instead of just thinking you can be lazy about this, as far as just throwing mud against the wall hoping it sticks type of thing. So when it comes time to offer on the house, that's kind of our process we use to gather as much information as we can and then help you decide how bad you want this house or how far you're willing to go in order to offer on it to get it. Both price, terms, closing date, all the things that go into this complex environment that we're in. But our job here is to guide you to make it more simple, to make it more straightforward as much as possible with all the moving parts we have going on with it all. And from contract to close, from offer to close, about 30 to 45 days, just to give you an idea what to expect. There's a few different areas you got to outlay some cash here too. One of them being, once you get your offer accepted, you usually have to put earnest money down, and it's typically about 1% of purchase price. So $300,000 home, $3,000, $200,000 home, $2,000. I've seen them as low as $500 and $1,000. Typically, the more the better, which means you're serious on all that. And earnest money is kind of a interesting debate, but that will be for another video that we'll make. But so you get your offer accepted, and then from there, 30 to 45 days, once we get it fully executed, signed by all parties, that's when we got to turn in earnest money within 5 days. We submit that contract to the title company for processing. We submit it to the lender for processing. And then obviously we submit it to our brokerage for compliance, for making sure all the paperwork's filled out appropriately in accordance with state compliance and all the things that go with that. So once we've turned all that in, typically we have a 10 business day inspection period for all inspections, where we'll go through and test it. The inspector will go through and test everything, like your hot water heater, your furnace, climb on the roof looking for hail, all of those things, trying to see what is a big issue with the house and what's not. Now keep in mind, this is a time that is meant for safety inspections, and is it working or not. Necessarily, this isn't the time to nitpick all the different things that came into consideration when we were touring the home in person and writing the offer with everything. The inspection period is really meant for your major mechanical items, safety hazards, is it working, not. Some people use this opportunity as a time to really try to renegotiate the heck out of the deal, trying to think they got the seller at a disadvantage. And that's a commonly used or thought of process that seems to be what most people try to do in that situation. Although I will tell you, it's a risky game to play, because you're kind of going back on what you said you were going to do when you first offered on the house. And now you're kind of changing the fact and renegotiating the deal. And not a lot of people are a big fan of that. Could potentially cause you to lose the deal. So usually we do that within reason, not just trying to come in here like we've seen it on the selling side. People coming in and try to just negotiate in a $15,000 HVAC system just because they want it, even though the HVAC system is working. So it's not an opportunity for you to just try to ask for whatever you want. Like, there's got to be a reason behind it and a report and validity behind what you're asking, not just like, hey, I want to ask for it, so I'm going to ask for it. I'm going to ask for anything and everything I possibly can. It's within reason of everything to work something out between buyer and seller on it all. So during the inspection period, after you've done the inspection, and there's several different types of inspections we could get into, which that would be a whole nother video to make, on all the different types of inspections you can get on a house and what to look for when it comes to that. So there's 2 more video ideas I got to make from that. But after your inspection period, at that point, you will write a repair request to the seller that always said, we want you to fix these things, we want you to take this money off, or we're just going to potentially walk away from the deal because there's just too much, or we don't want the house anymore, based on what we found, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a second negotiating period based on what we find and what comes up in that inspection process. Typically, we like to have it be a pretty clear, succinct house to where like no major deal killers from the start. That's where the construction background comes in handy before we get you all tied up into a contract, earnest money, paying for inspection, all those kind of things. We just need to test and verify that it's all in a good place and a good spot for everything. So that's the inspection period. That's typically, within 10 business days. The appraisal and underwriting process is usually like week 2 to 3 in this thing, and then closing is week 4 on everything. So depending on the level of inspections too, you need to plan for cash to pay for those inspections to go with that. Anywhere from $350 all the way up to like $1,000. Just depends on how many inspections you get and how thorough and how big the house is. But then step 5, this is week like 2 to 3-ish on here between the appraisal and underwriting. So the appraiser has to go out, evaluate the property, make sure it meets the appraisal guidelines, make sure it meets the valuation of what the bank is willing to loan on the property. It's not necessarily a determinant of what the house is worth. It's a determination of how much the bank will loan on the property, not necessarily what the home is worth. So that's a common misconception about appraisals. And then underwriting is where they really scrutinize you personally, as far as your tax returns, your work history, your documents, your income, your bank statements, all those different things. They really run you through the ringer when it comes through underwriting. I've seen more buyers in more situations not getting approved, not being able to get through this underwriting process fully recently than I have in a long time, just from various different reasons of people's crazy background, financial background and situations, and it makes the bank nervous, leery on approving the loan or getting it through or having something work out on some of the requirements or conditions that come through that. So just know that's where your mortgage broker and your loan officer is really working hard to get you through this underwriting process. It's not really something a real estate agent can do because it's not really our realm of expertise. Our realm of expertise is the houses part. That's what you have a loan officer and a mortgage broker for, is to get you through this underwriting loan approval situation. So just be aware that that is a hassle and hard to do, that it's not necessarily given when you get to that. And so that's week like 2 to 3-ish, somewhere in there. And then week 4 typically is closing day. That's where you got to bring the down payment, closing costs. We do a final walkthrough the day before, make sure it's all in the condition of when we offered on it, and all the repairs were done. Come see it again type of thing. So there's 3 situations you'll be seeing the house. 1 when you go to show it to offer on it, 2 when you go through the inspection period, 3 on your final walkthrough. So you'll see this thing 3 times before you actually close on it. So you got plenty of assurance with everything to see the place. But closing day is when you get the keys. Utilities should all be in your name. Everything is transferred over. That's the joyous day. And then some days it's kind of like, oh man, I'm relieved. Like, I'm so glad that's over at that point. But that at least gives you the 6-step professional process for buying a home in Wichita, Kansas. Obviously, we could go way deeper into all that. That gives you an idea of how the process works, what goes on, whether you're relocating to the area, first time buying a home here, need to sell to buy situation. If we are selling to buy, it makes this process a little bit different, but still follows about this type of process on everything. But hopefully that helps you learn a little bit more what it's like to live and work in Wichita, Kansas, and buy a home here. Check out in my other videos that if you want to learn about Wichita a little bit more. Appreciate you watching as always. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and hopefully we'll talk with you soon. See ya.